Well, good afternoon or good evening or good morning, my lovely students. I'm in here again on a Sunday in November, and there's just beautiful skies out. I mean, what's up with November? It's just perfect so far. Can't last, my people. Can't last. Hey, this is our last unit of the semester. If you don't have me next semester, I'm going to miss you. If you do have me next semester, think of it this way, man. Half of your freshman year is almost up. That's pretty messed up. So our last unit is WW1, and here are the essential questions we're going to be dealing with in this lecture. Number one, what were the main causes of WW1? How did technology impact the war? Now, you have to understand this is the first massive war after the Industrial Revolution, and boy, does it impact the way the war is fought. What were the alliances and what did they have to do with the beginning of the war? And finally, how did the war start? Now, the main causes leading up to WW1, there's four of them. And it's going to be kind of like our last unit when, the 5 motivations for imperialism was important. These four causes are going to be important in terms of leading up to WW1. And the first one is right here. It is militarism. Now, what I mean by militarism is that each nation tried to make a bigger army. And a lot of times it was in response to a neighboring nation that was creating a big army. So these countries would feel insecure. It's kind of like one of your friends gets a new phone or a new television or a new computer, and you're just like, wow, man, I'd like to have that. So you finally talk your parents into getting it for you, and then your friend becomes insecure because yours is better than theirs is. And so they talk to their parents, and pretty soon you guys are in this war to see who can have the best stuff. Well, big deal. A couple of high school kids are trying to get nicer laptops. Who cares? This is more serious than that. This is when a country like France looks at a country like Germany, gets uptight, and so France makes more weapons, which makes Germany uptight, so they make more weapons, which makes France uptight, so they have to make more weapons. So it's just this never-ending thing. I like this poster here. It says militarism may begin overseas, but it always comes home to roost. And that's from an American perspective, obviously. But this is saying that militarism is a bad thing. The second thing is the alliance system that developed in Europe. Now understand, it's not unlike what high school kids go through. You feel like you're disrespected by somebody, so you line up friends to be on your side. Well, those situations never end very well. And this situation didn't end very well. Now you see up in the left-hand corner, Triple Alliance, Triple Entente. Don't worry about those words right now. I'm going to go over the alliances soon. But just understand that Europe was divided into 2 teams, and that these teams are bound to go at it at some point. Now, imperialism. This is a terrible photograph. So this is Uncle Sam teaching a class, and check it out. You got these good white kids back here doing their work, although there's one brown kid. I'm not sure what ethnicity that is. And then look at this poor Native American over here, man. That's messed up. I guess he's in trouble. And then you have this one native indigenous person that wants in, that's obviously not welcome. This poor indigenous person's cleaning the windows. And then you got these, I guess these guys are in trouble. What's up with that, man? That's a racist cartoon. I think it's incredible. Now, getting back to imperialism. Imperialism is what we did last unit, going out, getting colonies around the world. That created a very intense competition between European nations, and even the United States was involved. And that's going to lead to conflict, so that's not good. And then this concept of nationalism. The best word that I can give you for nationalism is pride. But it's more than just pride. It is out of control patriotism, to the point that you're blinded to your nation's faults. And when you become like that, you become pretty pushy and arrogant, and that's what happened to these European countries. Okay, one of the big topics in this class this semester was the Industrial Revolution. And the Industrial Revolution is going to produce some incredible weapons in WW1. Now, understand, people, that the military leaders did not know how to deal with this new technology. They were fighting wars like, back in Napoleon's day. And so when we get into World War I, it's going to create this incredible bloodbath because in a lot of cases, the generals are just clueless on how to deal with all these new weapons. And no weapon is more significant in World War I than the machine gun. This is a picture of about a turn of the century, 1900 machine gun, British machine gun. And what machine guns could do, and this is still is amazing. These things could fire about 500 bullets per minute. That's incredible. Even by today's standards, that's incredible. So you have a gun that can shoot, 500 bullets a minute? You could pretty much mow down anybody that's trying to get at you, which is exactly what happens in World War I. The machine gun is ultimately a defensive weapon. If you have a machine gun in a defensive position, good luck trying to overcome that position, which happens a lot in WW1. Submarine. Now, the submarine is a very important weapon in World War I. And if you look at the map, and we'll look at the map again, Germany is surrounded. And Britain and France and Russia has access to the sea, and Germany has a very limited access to the sea. So the submarine was for Germany the way to even the score. They could send these subs out, and these subs would sink ships coming to the Allied powers with supplies, which is the reason why the United States got into World War I. Submarine, very important weapon. Poison gas. This is one of the most iconic photographs from World War I. These are British soldiers lined up to go home who have suffered through a gas attack. Now, this gas could blind you, it could kill you, it could maim you for life, which it did in a lot of cases. And poison gas was just one of these horrible things from the Industrial Revolution. And we'll show you I'll show you some video of some reenactments of some poison gas attacks. Now, airplanes. The airplane was invented in 1903 by the Wright brothers from Ohio. And it was used in World War I. In the beginning of the war, it was used primarily for observation purposes. You would fly over your enemy's positions and you would see where they are. As the war progressed, it became more of an aggressive weapon. Planes would go down and strafe soldiers in the lines and even bomb enemy positions. But the plane is not really utilized to the great extent. It's going to be utilized tremendously in World War II. But it was still so new, they really weren't quite sure how to use it. Now, one thing's amazing about these planes, where the pilot rides, the cockpit is open. Now, you have to understand how cold it would be up in those planes. And do you realize that these planes were made out of canvas? The covering of these planes was canvas. You got to be kidding me. So, being a pilot in World War I was pretty harrowing experience. Now, when I think of World War II, I think of tanks. Tanks just began in World War I. They were not used all that effectively, but they were really going to be the story in World War II. This tank right here is a British tank, and it just looks kind of like like this tin can on treads, and it would go a whopping 4 miles an hour. Okay, the big story about World War I, because these weapons were so destructive, because people were not sure how to utilize these weapons, the war quickly bogged down into a stalemate. And what you had were trenches that were dug from Switzerland all the way up to the North Sea. Now, this is going to be the story in World War I, are these trenches. And these trenches, this map's pretty cool. You can see there would be like this little step here, where if you stepped on there, you could look over the top and shoot. But otherwise, you wanted to be down here so your head was not exposed by the other side. And they had places to sleep, and you know, like it became a very elaborate thing. The problem with these trenches is they were cold, they filled with water. Soldiers would sit in these places and constantly get bombarded and go stir crazy. And then when they were told to attack, they would have to go right here across no man's land, which was virtually a suicide mission. And so this was a horrible existence. Here's a picture in the trenches, and you can see they're just deep enough so you can look over the top, but just barely. Okay, here's the setup right here. Now these are the alliances. I want you to look at this country right here, Italy, because when the war starts, they actually go over to the French, British, and Russian side. This right here is the Ottoman Empire, which is present-day Turkey. It's going to jump in with Germany and Austria-Hungary. Now, at the beginning of the war, it was called the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente, but I think that that's a little confusing to worry about. Let's do this. Let's call the guys in yellow the Allies, which is later going to include Italy and the United States, and let's call Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Central Powers, and of course the Ottoman Empire is going to jump in there too. And you can see that the Central Powers are surrounded. Now, the only advantage the Central Powers would have was easy communication, and it's easy to transport soldiers from both fronts, but they are surrounded, and that's not a good place to be. They're going to have to fight here, and they're going to have to fight here. So you have to look at this and say the Central Powers have a definite disadvantage. Okay, so what got this darn war started? It's just a situation where it was just like dominoes falling. One small thing happened, and then it created this massive effect. And you know what happened wasn't a small thing, but kind of a small thing. Here's what we have to do. You got the Austria-Hungarian Empire, which was later broke up because the Central Powers obviously lost the war. So they had this big empire at the beginning of the war, and the heir to the throne, the person who's going to become the emperor, his name is Franz Ferdinand. Now he's visiting a portion of the empire, and this portion of the empire, the people want their independence from the Austria-Hungarian Empire, and so some young radicals decide that they're going to take this dude out, which is exactly what they did. Here's the guy's name. His name is Francis Ferdinand. This is him and his wife, and they are taking a trip in June of 1914. They drive down a city street in a place called Sarajevo. They're attacked by Bosnians who want their independence. They kill her. They kill him. Austria-Hungary is so angry about this that they declare war on a small country called Serbia right beside them. Russia jumps in and declares war on Austria. Germany then declares war on Russia. You don't have to remember all this, people. And then France declares war on Germany. And then when Germany attacks France or neutral Belgium, Britain declares war. You don't need to remember that chain of events. All you need to know is that a small event, the assassination of this man right here, the person who was going to become the leader of the emperor of the Austrian Empire, put in a chain reaction that led to all the major nations of Europe being at war. That's messed up. Okay, guys, World War I. That's how it got started.